Remember those charming old houses with big porches and unique designs like Queen Anne? Let's explore 10 old house styles no longer built today, once beloved across America. Ready? Popular between 1900 and 1930, the American Craftsman style was known for its sloped roofs, covered porches, and handcrafted wooden details. Built to last, these homes featured exposed beams, brick fireplaces, and carefully crafted interiors. Entire neighborhoods were once filled with these houses, especially in the 50s and 60s. Their inviting porches were perfect for sitting in the late afternoon and watching life go by. Oh my! Nothing compares to the old style. They were just beautiful. However, with the rapid expansion of suburbs and the demand for faster, cost-effective construction after World War II, the Craftsman style was gradually replaced by simpler designs. Today, you can still find these houses preserved in historic neighborhoods, but new constructions in this style are extremely rare. I would definitely love to see a comeback of this. How about you? One of the most unique and extravagant house styles of the Victorian era, Queen Anne homes were popular between 1880 and 1910. They featured tall towers, steep roofs, ornate porches, and detailed decorations. These houses stood out, especially in the Northeast and Midwest, as they looked dramatically different from the simpler homes that followed. Many boasted colorful stained glass windows, grand wooden staircases, and long hallways that seemed to stretch endlessly. Builders paid extraordinary attention to every detail, making each Queen Anne home a true work of art designed to last for generations. But over time, these houses became too expensive to maintain. Their complex designs made repairs difficult, and many were either demolished or altered to fit modern needs. Sadly, it's becoming increasingly common to hear about these iconic homes being torn down. It's heartbreaking to think that so many of these architectural wonders are disappearing. This is the kind of home many dream of owning, but it's rarely found today. The Tudor Revival style was inspired by medieval English homes and was popular from the 1890s to the 1940s. These houses have steep roofs, wooden beams on the walls, and small windows with many glass panes, making them look like something from an old European village. In the mid-1900s, you could still find many Tudor-style homes in older neighborhoods across the U.S. Some looked like small castles built with strong brick walls and beautiful wood details. By the 1970s, people preferred simpler, cheaper homes, so this style became rare. Today, Tudor homes can still be found in cities like Boston, Chicago, and Los Angeles. One of the most famous is Greystone Mansion in Beverly Hills, California, a massive estate built in 1928 that has appeared in many Hollywood movies and TV shows. The all-time favorite? Victorian houses are some of the most unique and beautiful homes in the U.S. Built between 1837 and 1901, they have fancy details, tall towers, colorful walls, and big porches. Old Victorian homes with a wraparound porch are just beautiful. Inside, they have carved wood, big staircases, and stained glass windows that shine with different colors in the sunlight. Victorian window designs are amazing, nothing like them. It's sad that they don't make houses like this anymore. A long time ago, you could see these homes in many neighborhoods, but over time, they became too expensive to take care of, so a lot of them were changed or torn down. Today, you can still find them in places like San Francisco and New Orleans, where people work hard to keep them looking just as beautiful as before. One of the most famous is the Carson Mansion in California, often called the best example of Victorian architecture in the U.S. Even though they aren't built much anymore, they will always be special. Not every house has four sides. Ready for the most unusual one on the list? Octagon houses were a unique type of home built in the 1800s. Unlike regular houses, they had 8 sides. This idea became popular around 1850 thanks to Orson Squire Fowler, who believed that the octagon shape made homes bigger, brighter, and better for heating and airflow. They seem like an overall better design. You could find these houses in different parts of the U.S., especially in the Northeast and Midwest. They look so different from other homes that people often stop to admire them. In the 1950s and 60s, some kids grew up hearing stories about these strange old houses that felt like something from another time. But over the years, people stopped building them. The shape made it hard to design rooms and roofs, and most people preferred homes that were easier to build and live in. By the 1900s, Octagon houses had almost disappeared. Today, a few still stand as museums or historic landmarks. They remind us of a time when builders dared to be creative. And if you enjoy content like this, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. 50s or 60s kid here, this one's yours. After World War II, from the 1940s to the 1970s, a new kind of house became super popular, the atomic ranch. These homes had low, slanted roofs, big windows, and open spaces that made everything feel connected. They were modern, simple, and perfect for growing families in the suburbs. If you grew up in the 50s, 60s, or 70s, you probably remember these houses well. Even though they were built decades ago, they still don't look old-fashioned. The huge windows brought in tons of sunlight, making the inside feel like part of the outside. I still love atomic ranch homes. If you ever lived in one, you know how cool they were, bright, open, and way ahead of their time. So much style, so unique, and fun to look at. But over time, people started wanting bigger houses with more rooms and taller designs. By the 1980s, fewer and fewer atomic ranch homes were being built, and new neighborhoods started looking different. The simplicity of the design, once considered a selling point, began to seem outdated to later generations. Dutch Colonial Revival homes became popular in the late 1800s and stayed that way through the early 1900s. These houses are easy to recognize because of their unique barn-like roofs, called gambrel roofs, which made the upper floors more spacious. They were inspired by the homes of Dutch settlers from the 1600s, but were updated to be more comfortable and practical. Back in the 1940s and 50s, you could find whole neighborhoods filled with these charming homes. They felt warm and welcoming, with big brick fireplaces and windows placed perfectly on both sides. If you ever lived in one, you might remember how solid and timeless they felt, like they had been standing forever, ready to shelter families for generations. But as new houses started to take over, Dutch Colonial Revival homes became less common. Their special roofs were harder to build, and they took up more space than the compact, modern homes people wanted. By the 1970s, fewer of these houses were being built, and newer neighborhoods had a different look. Today, not many new Dutch Colonial Revival homes exist, but the old ones are treasures. If you ever walk through a historic neighborhood and see one of these beautifully preserved homes, it might bring back memories of a time when houses were built with both history and comfort in mind. Bungalows were one of the most popular house styles in the U.S. from the late 1800s to the 1920s and 1930s. They were small, cozy, and just right for middle-class families who wanted an affordable but well-built home. With low roofs, wide porches, and warm, inviting interiors, bungalows felt simple yet full of charm. Back in the 1940s and 50s, these homes were everywhere. Kids played in the front yards, neighbors sat on their porches, and life felt slower and more connected. If you ever stepped into one, you might remember the scent of old wood and the feeling of comfort that these homes had. They weren't just houses, they were places filled with memories. But over time, newer homes became more popular. People wanted bigger houses, and by the 1960s and 70s, styles like ranch houses started to take over. Fewer and fewer bungalows were built, and this style almost disappeared. Truly beautiful homes, and honestly, better built than most we see today. Let's talk about a true American classic, Cape Cod houses. These homes first appeared in New England in the 1600s, but they became super popular between the 1930s and 1950s, especially after World War II. With their steep roofs, great for snowy winters, central fireplaces, and simple, cozy design, Cape Cod houses were all about comfort and practicality. Back in the 1950s and 60s, whole neighborhoods were filled with these homes. They were perfect for young families buying their first house. If you grew up in one, you might remember the small windows that kept the warmth inside in the winter, or the cute front yards with little gardens. They weren't big or fancy, but they always felt like home. As time passed, people started wanting bigger, more modern houses. By the 1970s and 80s, fewer Cape Cod homes were being built, and many older ones were remodeled to keep up with new trends. Today, original Cape Cod houses are rare, but you can still find some in small towns in the Northeast. Some have been updated, but others remain just as they were decades ago. And for those who have ever lived in one, there's nothing quite like the warmth and nostalgia of a Cape Cod home, right? Colonial homes have been around since the 1600s. These houses are easy to recognize with their symmetrical shape, big front doors, and tall windows. Built to be strong and cozy, they often had big fireplaces to keep families warm in the winter. In the 1940s and 50s, whole neighborhoods were filled with colonial-style homes. If you ever lived in one, you might remember the classic look, the bright rooms, and the solid feel of a house built to last. One of the most famous colonial homes is Graceland, where Elvis Presley lived. Even though it's a mansion, it still has that classic colonial charm. Over time, newer house styles became more popular, but colonial homes never truly went out of style. So, if you could bring back one of these home styles, which one would it be? Let us know in the comments. As for me, it's the Craftsman. It's always been my favorite.